so they're never gonna cancel him. But just because Hassan is protected by his audience of psychos doesn't mean those around him do too. As Hassan's dog walker, who also randomly has a live stream setup, says he definitely doesn't have a shock collar.
It's not a shock collar. I've seen that collar. I've used that collar before. I've babysat that dog.
To which the various Twitter replies say otherwise. But here comes another popular streamer contradicting the dog walker.
I looked at the collar.
Pick your hero or villain. I'm not judging.
There's no Zach. There's only
You don't have to be a witch to find the magic.
She thinks she's protecting him, but she's really just confirming the internet's allegations that the shock collar was just taped off to look like the vibrating version. As all these orbiters want to help Hassan, but the problem is nobody has a good enough memory to be a good liar, especially when everybody has a different version of the lie, including Hassan himself. As that second girl is now getting angry at other popular streamers for showing that clip.
I've made my share of mistakes, but I am fighting every day to make amends.
30 seconds before you attack.
Oh
Get
no,
ready.
how dare you show a clip of me speaking? I only said that on live stream. Why did you allow other people to hear what I said? This is like that outrage over that Libs a TikTok account, where they only repost social media videos of what leftists already said, but somehow her letting us see it is worse than them actually saying it. As Ethan Klein, Hassan's former co-host, sheds light as to why this is likely happening.
I've seen this happen to Saul so many times.
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Go against him. He calls them. He texts them. He's done it to XQC. He did it to Mizkis. He did it to Ludwig. He did it the other day to Charlie. After he saw the videos, like, you know what? Next time. So he for sure messaged Paul Cocaine.
He's talking about that podcast that pushed back Hassan's appearance surrounding the controversy. As everybody wants to feature the streamer that brings in 30,000 concurrent viewers, but nobody wants to be affiliated with a guy they're calling Hassan Hiker Shoes and New Mike Vic. Not because he suddenly became a worse person, they've all witnessed firsthand who he is for several years, but only because suddenly it's no longer beneficial to their career, as this is really starting to sound exactly like Hollywood. And recently, the dog has mysteriously disappeared from her place. People are noticing the not-so-subtle command.
To a position where we've finally gotten to a place where, like, oh, pure peace is taking place.
Suspicious.
It's taking place.
When the puppy is finally set free, he's again shifting his stance.
I am ready to put on a show. Keep going. Spider mode.
What, like the people that are playing significant threat or whatever, like most,
My fate isn't sealed yet.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Use it. Straight up,
The Dark Child is ready to awaken.
1,000 gods!
and it's used in the training of like dogs and
I think he's just preparing his audience for the inevitable admission that he did it. He just didn't want to make a big deal out of it, because at the end of the day, like always, he's the real victim. He had the audacity to boldly lie to his audience. This was a different collar. He wasn't even wearing one in the original video when we all saw it. He's just pointing out any last fans that might believe their own eyes over his outright lies. And honestly, he wouldn't be the first person to implement this strategy, since if you can get away with saying fiery but mostly peaceful, safe and effective, or she's not wearing this shock collar you can clearly see in 4K HD, whatever audience sticks to it, let you get away with anything. appreciate Mike and Sucks. My lord commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality.
I am ready to put on a show! Put on your tail!
Reborn from the chaos.
Hey man, you wanna help me save money?
Seized!
I'm gonna help you, bro.
Here
You want
is
200
almost
ticket if
yours.
you want it now.
Hassan talked his dog.
Yeah. Did do that. That was pretty messed up. Nice meeting you. That's what you like to fight? I thought of it. We get 200 gifted if anyone feels bad for Hassan's dog.
PayPal link. Don't mess with the amazing spider!
Then, we have a pilot video. So I don't know how you can defend this guy now, but people are sure I'm trying. And I'm not even
Fate
going to
isn't
read
sealed
their
yet.
unhinged responses again. Like every other star. Let's start off with South. Woman 56 so hard it inspires me as critical. After she came out and supported Hassan Piker, she got some backlash, which for an attractive woman that drives a Lambo and she's filthy rich from sitting on her ass and gaming on occasion, this was a real struggle. She ran to Twitter to make the bravest tweet I've ever seen in my life.
Ice, just genocide,
Chaos
pedos,
surrounds us.
animal.
I will gladly show it to his in
And
control.
congrats to Jason for 100K subs.
Thank God Jason has made $500,000 this month. I was losing sleep over it.
30 seconds before you attack.
Can you imagine
Get
how
ready.
many lives this is gonna be saving?
Clearly, people saw
Velasco
this tweet
said I
and
should
made
stay
fun of
away
her
from
because
you.
it is the most
She really
tone-deaf,
hates you.
stupid, asinine tweet that basically goes, I support the current thing. This shit wasn't just hitting
I
the fan.
don't really
It
let
was
people
going
or
all over the
demons
walls.
tell me what
Fox
to do.
News was under Hassan Piker's skin like a tick with
Strong
lice.
together.
Far left.
The battle starts in 5,
I'll open up a portal point.
2, 1. All
What
you
was
need
the
to do
moment
is capture the
you
mission area.
realized they had
Got
been
it?
killed?
Please bring me Lilian, Noya, and Yahel. And she said that my mother or my sister will tell me. And of course, this is the moment I knew that the worst thing happened to me.
Massively defeated, they're decimated. They no longer have a real military force. The land of Israel is 45 miles. 45 miles, it's not even the city of London. And you want to stick this state inside an area of 45 miles.
All Israelis must face the reality and the truth here. Nobody is defeated. And nobody has won a war. The Palestinian people deserve their freedom.
I won't
The
make the
fragile
same
peace
mistakes
in
again.
Gaza
No.
is holding for now.
disappearing.
The slow release of the bodies of hostages has prompted fury in Israel, leading to retaliation. The Rafah crossing is temporarily closed. Aid into Gaza will be reduced. President Donald Trump warned Hamas that they don't give up their weapons, they may be quickly and violently disarmed. Meanwhile, violent clashes have erupted in the split between Hamas and rival groups, with the terror organization publicly executing blindfolded enemies from Crete. I'll be discussing those developments in these deal with my panel shortly. First, I'm joined by Crybabies, who was kidnapped and known by Hamas on the 7th of October and held hostage for 491 days. His wife and 2 daughters killed during the attack. His brother Yossi was also killed.
I am ready to put on a show.
Ellie, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
I've not had the opportunity to interview a hostage who was taken in Israel. Let me first of all start by just asking you to summarize your experience
Their team's
when you
capture
were in
progress has
captivity.
passed the halfway point.
It was, of course, hell for me,
Rainbow stands
like
with
for
you.
all the hostages. Humiliation, daily basis, loads of psychology terror by the casters.
It's the grand finale.
silence from time to time. You know, really bad hygienic conditions, taking showers once in 6 weeks with the half bucket of cold water, no soap, no toothpaste. Of course, the worst thing was starvation that made on purpose, because when we ate 1 meal a day, when I say 1 meal, make a bread and
the moon haunts you.
They used to eat 5 meals a day.
What was it that sustained you when you were in captivity? Did you expect that you would one day be released? Did you fear you might never come out? What was your psychology when you were in there?
Me personally, I will always try to believe that one day will come and I will be released. I really wanted to believe that. I kept thinking, in optimistic way. That helped me to survive, helped me to be in a good mood and not to be depressed. And that's I thought it's the best way to survive that.
One of the many terrible aspects of your story, Ellie, is that I imagine you had no idea what had happened to your family, your wife and 2 daughters. So take me back to October the 7th and exactly what happened that day before you went to
Maximum pulse!
Alarms all over Israel from missiles that have been shot from Gaza. In the safe room with our daughter, with our dog. And 4 hours later, the Hamas terrorists invaded to our house. After 4 hours ago, they infiltrated Kibbutz Be'eri. Just half an hour before that, Jan and I made the decision that we are not going to fight back. We have no weapons to fight back or something like that. And we presume I'll be kidnapped. And they have their British passports, Lian, Noya, and Yahel. And we were sure it will protect them. And then the first seconds they opened the door safe room, their safe room door, we said to them they have British passports, and they understood everything. So 3 minutes later they kidnapped me, and 5 minutes after the kidnap, they murdered, they slaughtered Noya, Yahel, and Lian in our house.
But you didn't know that. You had been kidnapped. So for the entire time that you were in captivity, you were clinging to the hope, I imagine, that your family may have survived.
Yes, thanks God nobody told me that. It helped me a lot to survive, motivate me to survive, that I know that one day I'll come back, and as I shout up and promised to my daughters before the kidnap, and I would just,
it does help.
All the idea, that I'm going to see them one day and hug them again and kiss them again, and I promise myself all the time that I'll take them and move to London and live there.
What was the moment that you realized they had been killed? How soon after your release?
The minute they passed the Red Cross transferred me to the IDF on the border, social worker approached to me and told me that my mother and my sister are waiting for me in camp. And I said to her, please bring me Lian, Noya, and Yahel. And she said that my mother and my sister will tell me. And of course, this is the moment I knew that the worst thing happened to me.
The battle starts in 5.
They've been murdered
4,
on October 7th.
3, 2,
it was
1.
like, 5
All you
kilo
need to do
hammer
is capture the mission area.
on my
Got
head.
it?
I cried. Then I remember that, after this cry and they tried to calm me down, I remember that where I'm getting the strength from, and always for my family. So I want to see my mother and my sister, hug them. That's what happened.
I can't even imagine roller coaster of emotions that you were going through. The joy and jubilation of finally being released, and then the devastation of discovering your wife and daughters had died. But then seeing other family members, your mother and sister, it must have been just an extraordinarily tumultuous roller coaster.
It was a roller coaster of feelings, you know. But it started 2 days before the release. That the Hamas commander announced in the tunnel that my brother Yossi was kidnapped as well on October 7th and been killed 3 months after the rape day. He was kidnapped. And it started already there. Just waited to hug Moya and Yael and Vian on the border. So, you know, imagine that. And then, you know, with all this, I think it's going to be the real happiest day ever. The day that they transfer me to the IDF. And I feel safe again. Instead of that, they told me about my family, the loss of my family. But I'm a very practical man. I know I can't do anything to bring them back, and I need to, you know, I can't let the grief to rock me and bury me. I always look, you know, for ways to move on, and I have to stay optimistic, and I want to rebuild my life, and that's what I, you know, rely on. That maybe they see me, you know, from heaven, and I'm very proud of me.
How emotional was it for you to see that Yossi's body had been returned? How important was it to you that his body came back?
It was very, very important, very emotional. My family, the Crybabies family, this, you know, battle mode to bring him back, his body back, almost 2 years. And I joined them 8 months ago, and it was very, very important for us to bring him back to Israel and bury him. And we have a grave to cry on now, and his daughters and his wife have a place to come and be with him when they need. So for us it's a closure. It's a very sad closure, but we feel almost lucky that we got Yossi's back, you know, Yossi's body back. And in the meantime, 21 dead bodies, you know, not coming back.
This is real!
President Trump obviously made a lightning visit to the region. Many people credit him with finally getting this deal done, at least allow the hostages, the remaining hostages to be returned, and although it hasn't been completed yet, the expectation that all of those who died in captivity will be returned. So how much credit do you give Donald Trump for this?
I give to President Trump and Mr. Witkoff, I give a lot of credit.
With the amazing Spider-Man!
A lot of credit to my agreement when I was released on February 25, and I met them on March 25. I arrived to the West Wing in Washington, and thank them. I was very grateful that they secured my release. And of course, I hope the war comes to an end. We have to give them a lot of credit for the pressure they put on Mr. Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Hamas side. And that's very, very important. We know Israel and Israelis, we always look for peace, and we want to live in peace and quiet. And I think we deserve it after 2 years. So maybe now we can start to heal from our trauma.
And what are your feelings towards Prime Minister Netanyahu? He's a divisive figure in Israel. Many support his actions. They support the way he's prosecuted the war. Many other Israelis do not. They hold him accountable.
This is real firepower!
Corruption charges, and this is all over too. So a controversial figure. What are your feelings about Netanyahu?
First of all, it's great that we are democracy and we have disagreements. That's great. We are probably the only country that has, in this area that can criticize our prime minister or agree with him or not agree with him. That's great. So I'm not going to give any grace to my prime minister, and I'm sure I have some disagreements with him along the way. But it doesn't really matter. He's the prime minister. He shows how to handle this war and how to manage it. So I'm not a politician. I'm not going to give him any.
Ellie, finally, what do you hope happens now? The bombing has stopped. The hostages have been. What do you hope happens in the region? Many people think it's going to be the Palestinians having the same rights as the Israelis. What do you feel about that?
Again, I'm not going to give my opinion about two states or not. I'm not an expert in that. I hope the agreement they signed and they led by the U.S. government. It will be all, in fact, in our reality. And Hamas will disarm from his weapon. And maybe we'll have some agreements with other countries in the area. It would be great. As I said, Israel, and for me, as Israeli, and many of my friends, and most of the Israelis want to live in quiet and peace. We wish for that. We wish. So I really hope that's what it's going to be.
It's been great to talk to you. It's been quite harrowing to hear your story and what happened to you. I wish you all the way best in your life. I hope you get the peace you want, both for yourself and for your future. I greatly appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Just for can you recognize this map?
Let me see. Hang on. I need to get make Arsenal great again. I love that.
Yeah, my friend Ruben is Arsenal fan. He gave it to me. But I'm more a new fan, so
Well, I think the honest truth that Arsenal are looking pretty great again, but Manchester United, I regret to say, Elliot, are not.
Unfortunately, Man U doesn't look really good now. We had our time. And maybe it will come back one day.
You know what? I would like that because I love our rivalry. And at the moment, there's not much rivalry, but I think Arsenal may win the league this year. You better get used to that idea, I think.
Maybe we meet one day in Emirates Stadium.
I would love that. I would love to do that. It would be great to meet you in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Remarkable man. Well, joining me to discuss the latest on the peace plan is the experienced hostage negotiator, Gershon Baskin, and retired IDF Brigadier General Amir Avivi. Well, welcome to both of you. Gershon Baskin, it was really fascinating to talk to a man who spent 491 days in captivity at the hands of Hamas, talking in such a measured way, notwithstanding his devastating personal loss,
You'll need a
about
top-notch
his
team to win this
desire
one.
for peace and for Israelis and, for everyone in the region, Palestinians, everyone else, to be able to lead a
You
different
don't
life.
have to be a witch to find the magic in
What did you
this
make of
world.
it?
But it does
Definitely a
help.
remarkable man. We've seen a lot of Eli Sharabi on television since he was released, and he said some really heartening things to the Israeli public that have stayed with us. He's made some statements that every Israeli quotes from now and then. He talked about the issue of returning the hostages is not a difference between left and right, but straight. This is the Israeli values. This is the basis of Israeli society, the social solidarity. And we have the commitment of the Israeli government and the Israeli army to bring everyone home, to never leave someone behind. And unfortunately, it's been 2 years now and too long. Too many people have been left behind. But it's wonderful to see someone like him who's gone through such a horrible episode in his life and losing his family, and coming out with such a positive, optimistic attitude. It is
The
really,
battle starts
you
in
use the
5,
word, it's remarkable.
4, 3.
Yeah, it was very moving actually, and very inspiring.
All you need to do is capture the
Let me
mission
ask you
area.
though, Gertie,
Got
you've
it?
been, I know, very instrumental in having a lot of conversations with the Americans who are involved in trying to facilitate this deal. You know, many people are skeptical that this deal will hold. Many people are skeptical that there can be peace out of all this. Others are hopeful. And one of them is Donald Trump, who seems to have used tremendous force of personality to barrel this deal through. How optimistic are you that this deal can hold and actually lead to a sustainable peace?
Yeah, optimism is very difficult to hold in this region, but I'm optimistic in DNA. And I know about the ins and outs of the agreement and what's been disclosed to the public and what's still in the works. I am optimistic. Even my conversation with Mr. Whitlock in the last days have stressed the importance of the Americans holding Israel. We're seeing difficulties. These difficulties were to be expected. Both sides have reached the agreement already substantively, and yet the agreement will hold. I don't think that Hamas is playing with the issue of the bodies. There are objective realities on the ground, including the fact that they don't have a forensic laboratory, that most of the commanders who are responsible for the bodies of the Israeli hostages are no longer alive and they're killed by Israel. The fact that thousands of Gazans are declared unaccounted for or missing underneath the rubble of buildings that Israel bombed, and it's very likely that Israeli hostages might be underneath those buildings as well. So I think they built in this international mechanism of Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar to ensure that Hamas meets its obligations to search for the bodies. There are a couple of hundred Turks in Gaza Strip today. Egyptians were brought in yesterday. They will hold Hamas to their commitment. I suggested both to the Israelis today and to Mr. Witkoff that they post a cash reward to anyone involved in that information. You also have to understand that Israel is occupying 50% of the Gaza Strip. 90% of the Gazans are in the place where Hamas controls, which is 50%. There might be bodies in the 50% of the land of Gaza where Israel is in control. So a lot more work has to be done, and Israel can't have excuses for opening up fire. There have been accusations that Israel has killed Gazans in the last couple of days and kidnapped others, fired on the tanks and drones. That has to be verified that there were justified reasons for doing that, and if not, the Americans need to call the Israelis to the task and tell them to cease and desist. We have to keep this going. There will be a United Nations Security Council resolution next week providing international legitimacy and legality for the agreement, including a mandate for the international presence that will come to Gaza, made up of Arab countries and European countries and others. Things are on the road. There will be a new Palestinian government declared soon, a Palestinian security force that's been trained in Gaza in Egypt over the last month. A lot of work to do, a lot of moving pieces. 2 million Gazans who are homeless in a wet, cold winter in Gaza, they need housing quickly, caravans and tents. Tremendous amount of work to do. But I think that everyone is committed to it. The Israelis, the Hamas, and the United States leading that.
Amir Avivi, how optimistic are you there'll be lasting
Supernova!
peace that involve a genuine state solution to Palestinians having their own state or not? Today's show is sponsored by OneSkin, which will help all of us get younger. OneSkin is redefining skincare with cult favorites like OS1 Body Face and Eye, built around their patented OS1 peptide, which is clinically proven to
This is real firepower!
Backed by 5 clinical studies, OneSkin products include skin texture, firmness, and elasticity over time. They have more than 10,000 5-star reviews, supporting over 10 years of longevity research. OneSkin OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthier skin and hair now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code PEERS, P-I-E-R-S, at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code PEERS. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them you sent us. Gold is up by more than 40% since the beginning of this year. And Today's sponsor, Birch Gold, is marking Veterans Day with a tantalizing offer. Buy gold, get free silver. For every $5,000 purchase in Birch Gold this month, they will send you a free silver round which commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Birch Gold helps you to earn gold by converting an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA with physical gold. They will also waive custodial fees on the first-year investments from current or former military. Birch Gold has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, including many of you. So join them. Text my name, Cheers, to the number 99898 for a free info kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchases before the end of the month. Again, text my name, Cheers, to 989-898. Do it today.
Well, I'm a big believer in
This is real firepower!
Trump stated again and again. I would like to frame for a moment what happened in Washington and everything that we are seeing now. When I was watching the dynamics in Washington, it reminded me of the Yalta Convention. 3 months before the Nazi Germany was defeated, it was obvious that they are going to lose the war. And at this moment, Churchill, together with Roosevelt and Stalin, they convened in Yalta, discussed 2 things. What is Germany the day after, and what is going to be the world order the day after. I think this is exactly what happened in Washington. There was a clear understanding that Hamas has been decisively defeated. It was obvious that it would take maybe a month or 2 and Hamas would be completely defeated, and then this realization brought everybody, all the Arab world, also the Turks, the Qataris, to the table to discuss what is Gaza the day after and what is this new world order, this alliance, this Western Israeli moderate Sunni alliance that is going to emerge in the coming months. And I'm very, very optimistic that there will be peace agreements. Israel is going to sign many peace agreements in the coming year that will extend all the way to Indonesia, possibly Malaysia, Pakistan, Oman, Saudi Arabia. The Prime Minister of Israel spoke in the UN about Lebanon, Syria. Everybody is reaching out and they want to have this alliance with the US. As for the Palestinian arena, I think it will take a very, very long time because the whole issue of Gaza is going to take a long time to really make big changes. And also, I must say that in the mountains of Judea and Samaria, what's called the West Bank, the society is very much against the Palestinian Authority.
This is real firepower!
And we really think out of the box, looking at new solutions that will be also acceptable by the Palestinian society, but will also adhere to Israel's national security needs for the long term.
How confident are you that Hamas will disarm? I mean, Donald Trump is using some pretty strong rhetoric because Hamas has been saying they're not going to disarm. But he says he will disarm or he will be violently made to disarm, which obviously would be, one imagines, a return to some form of warfare. But if Hamas are saying we're not disarming, how is that process going to happen?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's not as big of a problem as it's made to be. Taking into account what my colleague said, Hamas has been defeated, they're decimated, they no longer have a real military force, they no longer have the amount of weapons that they used to have, and they certainly don't have offensive weapons that would threaten the state of Israel in any way. As long as there are Israeli soldiers in Gaza, they have targets to shoot at, and they're engaging guerrilla warfare, and that's very dangerous. But the most important thing to take into account now is that 95% of the Gazans no longer want to see Hamas again in their lives. Hamas has no support in Gaza. They're afraid of the Gazans. They're executing Gazans who are working against them today. They're showing strength, but it's a false strength. It's not really there. They cannot govern Gaza. They cannot control Gaza.
여보세요? 아, 그 18층이 아니라 13층에서 끝나던데요, 엘리베이터가.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
네. 아, 어디, 백화점 뒤에 어디 옆쪽인 거예요? 아, 저 파라곤 메디칼 써있는 저쪽인 거예요? 아, 알겠습니다. 네.
And once there is a new Palestinian government,
You don't have to be a witch to find the magic.
I will bring peace to this universe, no matter. Where there is evil in this universe, I will be there to balance it. I will bring peace to this.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Matt? Boy, is it good to see a friendly face. Well, friendly-ish. You okay, pal?
It's been a long road from Hell's Kitchen, Peter, and it hasn't been an easy one.
The fact that you're still here fighting means your journey isn't over yet.
But it finally is. I truly hope we both end up.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready to capture the available area and extract some goodies? Let's go!
This entire world is a living mass. Krakoa would be impressed. Of course, Mark called in Honshu. You're ready for action!
You're welcome. Someone scratch my back. That's what I need. Go! I blew up a keyhole.
Uh-oh! The other team is extracting those resources!
I am born anew. Healing power.
Nice.
Cosmic might returns.
The moon haunts you!
Heads up! The other team is ready to rumble!
Born again!
Quantum Mash.
Devils!
Great job!
Let the devil out!
You've got competition! Clear the enemies to extract more resources!
You get a weapon! Hey, we got a pretty good team.
Quantum magic.
Looks like resources are running low. Get ready to find another available area.
I have destroyed Moon Knight's totem. Healing power.
Pretty sure those are bad guys.
Fantastic!
You've got competition! Clear the enemies to extract more resources!
You are not alone. I feel better already.
Hey, it's a love over here.
Quantum magic.
Some pep in my step.
Hold on! Head to the next available area. Double KO! Uh-oh! The other team is extracting those resources!
Long way down.
This time I need healing.
Your powers are mine!
Here, Magneto!
I have found more lives. Want to match if I were you. I feel
They're
better.
halfway to victory. Don't let them get more resources.
Born again!
You've got competition. Clear the enemies to extract more resources.
Your fate is sealed.
Healing power.
Oh yeah! Your team is ready to rumble, baby!
I have found more lost souls.
Double Swain!
The shield. How nice.
Good news! You've stockpiled half the resources you need to win.
That's much better.
Judge!
Resources
Jury!
are nearly tapped out here, too.
Executioner!
Sorry. You've got competition. Clear the enemies to extract more resources.
There's still so much to
The
do.
other team is extracting those resources.
Incoming!
Fantastic! The rumble phase is about to begin.
Cosmic might returns.
Kill your best.
Fantastic!
Uh-oh! The other team is extracting those resources.
Insignificant gnats.
Let the devil born again!
Your powers are mine!
I would turn around. Back to my old self.
Second chance is over.
Great job! You're loading up on resources.
I feel like myself again.
Destiny awaits.
Uh-oh! The other team is extracting those resources.
Double Swain!
The cosmos heals you. Cosmic might returns.
Rumble speed enhanced.
Judge! Jury! Executioner!
Quantum magic.
I have risen.
You'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner.
Face the double.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
Bethesda has been facing a wake-up call for years now, and I really think it began in the Fallout 4-ish days, even as far back as Skyrim when you had the game, and it still doesn't run that well on the PlayStation 3, but Fallout 4 was really a turning point for myself. There was a lot to enjoy from that experience, but the clunky, dated design is one of those things that constantly gets criticized, and it has only continued. And even with Starfield, a lot of the problems that were complained about 10 years ago have only continued, and that's why discussions have been had about the future of Bethesda game studios and whether that future involves their creation engine. Now, it's important to understand here in 2025, Bethesda is still concentrating a little bit on Starfield. They have their second big expansion that's in development. Just recently, they said that, well, they remember that Starfield still does in fact exist. They promised new space gameplay in the back half of a random video that doesn't even mention Starfield in the title, but fortunately, a couple weeks later, we did get an official tease at the next big expansion, Terran Armada. Will it totally transform the experience? Will it make it a game of the year? Everybody loves Starfield suddenly? I highly doubt that. Shattered Space was supposed to represent that. It did not. It actually made the reputation of Starfield even worse. Hopefully with Terran Armada, it at least delivers a interesting, good experience. We'll see. I think the Starfield universe is just devoid of a lot of interest within it. There's not a lot going on that really can draw people in saying, this is the faction I love, this is the thing I want to see explored in new games. There just isn't that community that you see like with Fallout or the Elder Scrolls. But obviously, Bethesda's still doing some work with Starfield. We'll see if there's a future beyond Terran Armada, but they are working right now. Their main concentration, at least at their Maryland office, which is their main studio, is on the Elder Scrolls 6. And once the Oblivion remaster was released earlier this year, Todd Howard, who really wasn't involved or any of his team was involved in that remaster, was an outside studio, but he said, obviously we're working on the 6th chapter here. And there's been little tidbits here and there. We'll talk about that in a separate video, but the Elder Scrolls 6 is very much in development, probably just a couple of years away. And we're starting to hear a lot of conversation surrounding what the Elder Scrolls 6 should represent, and also how Bethesda Game Studios really needs to evolve as a developer. Some of that is with its writing, which in recent years has at best been competent, at worst boring and dreadful and really laughable. Fortunately, there's a ton of interesting lore and plot points like the Dwemer's fate, what's going on with the Aldmeri Dominion, the Thalmor, that I hope we do get explored in this new installment. Whether that's in a satisfying manner, that's a different question. But that is just one piece of the puzzle, because then there's the technical side, an aging, constantly updated engine that feels like it's running on fumes in 2025, and still isn't where it needs to be. We'll dive more into that technical aspect in a second, but indeed, the pressure is on. The Elder Scrolls 6 is one of the most highly anticipated games of all time, probably right behind the likes of Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 6 right now, and a former developer actually said that even if the Elder Scrolls 6 is great, he still thinks Bethesda developers are going to face a lot of horrible comments being sent their way, and even some threats and such. And I just can't really get behind this perspective, because we've seen other developers in this industry. face a lot of criticism. I mean, you look to what CD Projekt Red went through with Cyberpunk 2077, the launch day version. Developers were being constantly attacked over that. But by the time Phantom Liberty released in that 2.0 update, the tune on the game just changed drastically. And you can even look to Rockstar Games themselves. I mean, with Red Dead Redemption 2 beforehand, there was a lot of questions if they were going to be able to deliver, especially with all the years of Grand Theft Auto Online nonsense. And even Larian, say what you will, but some people were extremely skeptical over the fact that they were going to be reviving Baldur's Gate. A lot of people nervous about a developer that had no focus on the franchise beforehand getting involved with it, and obviously they delivered big time. Now, can Bethesda do the same with The Elder Scrolls 6? I don't know, but I genuinely think that that is the type of pressure that they have to know that's going into this project. And I do think the game has to be great, especially with the massive gap between Skyrim and this new installment. And if it's anything less, you're going to hear it from fans. And obviously I'll never get behind people going after developers and such, but this does fall on leadership. Leadership needs to understand the anticipation and the expectations that fans have for this new installment. But this is where things get really interesting, because one of the big things that has hurt Bethesda over the years is their game engine. This is something that goes as far back to the Skyrim days. I mean, hell, even to this day, it still runs horribly on PS3. The unofficial patch is still something that's very noteworthy with the impact that it had on this entire gaming industry. But the Gamebryo, which came the Creation Engine, then the Creation 2.0, still to this day feels extremely dated and clunky. One of the earliest moments I remember just thinking to myself, this has to go, was probably right around Fallout 4. That was the experience that said to me, like, I genuinely don't know why Bethesda Game Studios is continuing on this engine. But we actually heard recently from a former developer which parroted the same perspective that has been a very divided opinion for a long time now. Bethesda should abandon the Creation Engine for Unreal Engine 5, says former dev. And this is specifically coming from a former Bethesda lead artist. And he actually quit during Starfield's development because the team had grown too much. Now, Nate Perkypile has been extremely critical, I guess you could say over the last year or so, about what Bethesda Game Studios has become. Not necessarily just with the engine, but how the studio overall has it's no longer what it used to be. Now, he worked at Bethesda for 14 years, during which he was the lead artist on Fallout 76, and he worked on other titles including Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Skyrim. Before that, he worked at Retro Studios. Now, Perkypile left Bethesda in 2021 to form his own solo studio called Just Perky Games, and Perkypile said that while he enjoyed his time at Bethesda, he left during the development of Starfield because the team size had become far too large in his opinion. And this is kind of one of those concerns that a lot of people have with modern development studios. I mean, this is one of the big things I had as a criticism with BioWare and what became of that studio, especially in the recent years. And it's no longer the BioWare that we all fell in love with, especially during the Mass Effect trilogy days. But even of the new Rising Star Studios, looking at the Sandfall Interactive, what they accomplished with Expedition 33, I was extremely hopeful after that experience that they didn't expand beyond what they were. And that's one of the things that they came out specifically saying, we're not going to expand into this giant behemoth studio. We're going to keep the core vision, this creative group that made this game, we're going to keep it to what it is. And that's, I think, a smart thing, especially in this day and age with how we've seen so many development studios being harmed by expanding way too big. Now, Perkybell goes on to say, I know a lot of people have thoughts on Starfield and how it probably is too big, should have been smaller, etc. I agree with a lot of that. And while I enjoyed working at Bethesda a lot, when we were about 65 to 110 people on Fallout 3 and Skyrim, I enjoyed it a lot less as it grew and grew. And this is something that, again, a lot of developers have talked about. It's just when you have these smaller groups of developers, it's easier to get thoughts and ideas into a game rather than when you have hundreds and thousands of developers involved in a project, because it has to go through so many different individuals to get things approved. It just creates a giant mess. And I think that's what we've seen with a lot of these big franchises and why a lot of them have fallen on hard times. But Perkypile did not stop just there. This former lead artist had a lot more to say, and yes, he gets into why Bethesda should be switching to Unreal Engine 5. Now, he says in a recent interview with Kiwi Talks, he explained why he thinks it's time for Bethesda to move over to Unreal Engine 5. I think it's pretty telling that there are some studios with similar tech that have made that leap lately, like CD Projekt Red. It's not to say that it wouldn't be a ton of work, sure, that's completely true. It's not like you're going to be able to start making the game, but when you have this large tool base and large knowledge base people could pull from, it's easier to hire people and ramp up. I'm of the opinion that it's easier to stay relevant and not always try to play catch up, like a lot of what was done on Starfield, was trying to get all of these rendering systems and animation systems up to snuff, and it makes it hard to even actually make the game. The way I describe it is to people is that you're on a train, but also laying the train tracks at the same time, but it's also on fire the entire time. And say what you will, that is something that CD Projekt Red developers described Cyberpunk 2077's development as. They had to put those train track pieces down while they're trying to develop a game, and it really hurt that studio at that time. And that is why they pulled the plug on the Red engine and now are working on UE5 in collaboration with Epic Games. Now, Perkybile did respond to articles about it. He said, "This is me. In case it's not clear, I'm not saying it would be zero work. Obviously, it'd be a ton. I just think that's less work than the constant need to play catch-up and the lost productivity due to how that engine works. I've shipped games with both." Now, Perkybile is not the only former Bethesda developer to chime in on this conversation, because Skyrim's former lead designer actually admitted Bethesda shifting to Unreal would lose tech debt, but that is not the point. And this is a different perspective on the matter, one that I take considerable issue with. Now, speaking to video gamers, Skyrim lead designer and ex-Starfield system designer Bruce Nesmith, who left the studio just a couple of years ago, revealed that the current version of the creation engine has been perfectly tuned to making the sweeping, reactive worlds that Bethesda creates. And the problem right here is it's perfectly tuned to the type of game that Bethesda wants to make, but the type of game that Bethesda is making is just dated. It's not keeping up with what the standards are nowadays that have been set from the likes of Baldur's Gate 3, even Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. These are experiences that Bethesda should be looking at for inspiration, and also understanding that technology it does matter. You need to keep up with the times. Now, this is where Nesmith, he goes on to discuss should they be switching to Unreal Engine. He says the game engine is not the point. The game engine is in service to the game itself. You and I could both identify 100 lousy games that used Unreal. Is it Unreal's fault? No, it's not Unreal's fault. Gamebryo is no longer a business. It hasn't been for a while. But that engine has been constantly tweaked, updated, and refined to do exactly the kind of games that Bethesda makes. The Elder Scrolls, the Fallout, Starfield, it's perfectly tuned to that kind of game. But the thing is, while it's perfectly tuned, it also has considerable issues attached with that. I mean, the Elder Scrolls, like I brought it up earlier, but the fact that it barely run the PlayStation 3, that still is kind of a problem. And also Fallout 4, I just remember the clunky combat and also the dated design in various areas, the loading screens. These are things that people have been bringing up for years, and Bethesda kind of has just been putting their fingers in their ears, just saying, la 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 la, I can't hear you. And that is a problem. And Starfield, we don't even need to get into the fact that you're playing Menu Simulator most of the time with all the various systems that are introduced. It's not fun. There is no immersion, and that's one of the big things that people want from the Elder Scrolls 6. They want that immersion. They don't want to be sitting in loading screens, even if it is just for a few seconds, especially when competitors have mostly gotten rid of all of that. Nesmith does continue on. He talks about, if Unreal, if they went, along with that. He explains changing an engine would be a huge shift for Bethesda, and one that would take numerous years to properly implement. This would result in a period of slower development, a long training process, and of course, a massive cost. Should they move to Unreal Engine? You have to do a cost-benefit analysis. The cost of moving into Unreal would be all the upfront development you'd have to make to try and shoehorn what you already used to be able to do into Unreal. It would be, I'm just going to say a number that's certainly not the real number, a year or two of technical work just to move it over to the engine as is. And then more work beyond that to tune the engine, to tune the game to work in it. That's the penalty side, that's the risk side. However, though, Nesmith does admit that there is a degree of tech debt within Bethesda's creation engine. The same as most engines, moving to Unreal could fix some of these issues, but for the most part, it doesn't really matter. The benefit is you lose a lot of tech debt. There are parts of the Gamebryo engine that I would not be surprised to find out that Bethesda can no longer compile because the original source code just doesn't compile anymore. You just got to use the compiled stuff as is, but arguing over whether or not you should use this engine or that engine, the engine is in service to the game. Is the game good? I don't care what the engine is. The game's good. Let's play the game. The thing is, though, there's an argument to be had that the game being good has not been something that a lot of people are attaching with Bethesda since 2015, maybe with Fallout 4. I mean, you can look to the Steam page as Starfield as evidence of that, a 6 out of 10. Obviously, there's other problems with that. The writing is another big thing that people have criticized for years now, but it's also just the overall feel with the experience that just isn't holding up with the times. And look, yeah, Starfield right around a 6, 5 out of 10 on Steam with hundreds of thousands of reviews. Before that was Fallout 4. I believe that's right around an 8 out of 10. It's been going lower and lower, and that should scare Bethesda leadership, but all indication is that they're not scared. and that makes me worried for what the quality will be like with the Elder Scrolls 6. Because look, there's other things, there's things about the Gamebryo Creation Engine 2.0 that I enjoy. The fact that you can pick up any item, that's cool. That's a Bethesda thing, but how does that aid the overall gameplay experience? Like, the jankiness is something that we all love about Bethesda experiences, but how does that aid the overall game? And I'd argue that it really doesn't. Like, it makes for a couple of fun videos that you can post on Twitter. Look, I have all these ham sandwiches I can throw into my Starfield ship. There's hundreds of them, thousands of them. That's cool, but how does that make the game better? It doesn't, in my opinion. And it's not like Bethesda is using these aspects to, you know, improve quest or mission design. We haven't seen that. It's a lot of the standard stuff that we've seen since, what, 2011, 2010? So I do think the point that I'm trying to hit home on is, does the engine do more harm than good here in 2025? And I think there is a strong argument to say that the Gamebryo Creation Engine 2.0 just isn't good enough anymore. It must be acknowledged because there is one massive advantage to the Creation Engine 2.0, and it really has nothing to do with Bethesda, but more so the community that surrounds these games, whether that be Fallout, whether that be the Elder Scrolls, and even to a lesser degree Starfield, and it is the modding capabilities. That is not something you're going to see with Unreal Engine 5, but it is something that other engines or maybe a newer engine could compile. It's just something that, again, would take a lot of time. But we're at a point where that argument is being had, maybe it is necessary. And the counter argument has been for a very long time, well, Bethesda just needs to upgrade this aspect or this aspect of the engine. That's something that Todd Howard has even said with his technology. But we've been waiting. A lot of us have been waiting multiple games now, and that just has not happened. And a lot of the issues that have plagued the Creation Engine 2.0 continue to plague it. And it does have to be said, when is enough enough? And when we're talking about specific aspects of this engine, I found this again interesting. Nate Perkypile, he was even surprised by all of those loading screens, the fact that we're playing Menu Simulator. He was surprised by how much loading the game launched with. And this is, again, he said in an interview, it could have existed without those loading zones. Like, some of those were not there when I had been working on it, so it was a surprise to me that there was as many as there were. So why did Starfield launch with so many loading screens? Perkypile said part of the segmentation of the game has to do with the way the Creation Engine, which Bethesda uses to make its games, works, and that has a lot to do with performance. A lot of it is gating stuff off for performance in Neon. And that's just crazy because if you have played Starfield, you roam through Neon, it's not like this massive, huge experience. There's not like hundreds of NPCs mounting in this area. It really is kind of the bare minimum. And again, this just calls into question how much can, you know, they deliver with the Elder Scrolls 6, especially if they're hamstrung by these performance issues, because it doesn't seem like Starfield addressed any of that. And it's not like it, I highly doubt the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be experiencing this drastic technology leap. We haven't seen it with Starfield. I don't think we're going to see it with TES 6. And it is worth mentioning that Bruce Nesmith, the Skyrim lead designer, did address the loading screen concern, which has been plaguing Bethesda for years now. He made it sound like there's going to be loading screens in Bethesda games for years to come yet. Bucko, we just didn't have a choice, really, and I don't like that as an answer to this criticism. He says it's not that anybody at Bethesda ever wanted to do it, we just didn't have a choice, really. Everybody who complains about them assumes that it's done because we're lazy or we don't want to follow the modern thinking on stuff, but he explains that the fact of the matter is that Bethesda games are so detailed and so graphics intensive, oh my, you just can't have both present at the same time. Specifically, it's really hard to keep track of all those weird physics in the precise spot you left your cheese wheels across Bethesda's enormous open worlds if you aren't giving the game a breather every so often, and trying to make seamless loading screens, apparently, says Nesmith, caused unacceptable performance woes. I can't have the interiors of all these places loaded at the same time as the exteriors. That's just not an option. All the fancy tricks for streaming and loading and all that, you end up with hitching, so you're actually better off stopping the game briefly, doing a loading screen, than continuing on. The alternative is to make games with less going on. But then, that would be hardly a Bethesda game, would it? So it's just one of those necessary evils if the game was going to have the experience we wanted it to have. And again, I just go back to the point that I was trying to bring up earlier. Having all those cheese wheels and stuff, how does that aid the overall game? How does it make it better? Because I just don't see it outside of a couple of funny little videos and clips that are shared on like the Bethesda subreddit or various Twitter pages. I think if you polled the gaming community and you asked them, do you want those cheese wheels to still be there when you leave them to go do a mission or whatever? Or do you want a more fluid, immersive experience with less loading screens? And I think the vast majority are going to lean in that less loading screens territory. At least that's my belief based on what we've seen with all of these games over the years, not just Bethesda, but what people prioritize, because it certainly isn't graphics. It's none of that. And also, let's not act like these Bethesda experiences are pushing the bar with graphics. The facial animations still look like they're out of the year of 2011. Like, there's various things about the graphics that also don't really hold up with modern times. Now, we did get a taste of what Unreal Engine could look like in an Elder Scrolls experience earlier this year through the Oblivion remaster. Again, an outside studio worked on this, Virtuous. But it's also important to understand that all it was doing was the rendering, while Creation Engine was still doing pretty much everything else. And the rendering part was a mess. Virtuous, they've had some optimization issues in the past, and Oblivion was plagued by that. That's why some analysts have come forward saying the Elder Scrolls 6 unlikely to use Unreal Engine 5 for rendering, as it wouldn't solve the core Creation Engine issues, and that's probably true. And it would have to be, they'd have to go all in on the engine. It doesn't sound like they will. And the elephant in the room has to be mentioned, because I know people are probably already typing down the comments all about it, but yes, UE5, especially this console generation, and especially here in 2025, has been disastrous. And a lot of these developers that were working previously on proprietary software, moving then to Unreal Engine 5, it's quite clear a lot of them don't care to prioritize optimization, thus why we've seen just a plague of UE5 disasters. And do I have confidence that Bethesda wouldn't be another one a part of that list? I do not, but it's quite clear that what they have been doing isn't working. The upgrades and such, it isn't making the difference that is necessary here in the modern days of 2025. The definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and expecting a different result. I don't know if UE5 is the answer, but I can say for certain that what Bethesda has been doing over the last number of years, it quite clearly is not working. Something has to give, something has to change. This would be one of those instances that having smart leadership, especially from their above company of Microsoft, could help, but I have my doubts that'll ever happen. Now, an ex-Bethesda developer, like I said, the pressure is on the Elder Scrolls 6 right now. And even some of the former talent that have been attached, they are skeptical that this current team is going to be able to deliver. As an ex-Bethesda dev said, they're making something different than I would have done. This is somebody who worked on Oblivion, Skyrim, and such. And we've seen, like I said, there's been a lot of criticism with Todd Howard, his design philosophy, especially what it is today. We saw Skyrim's co-lead and Morrowind torchbearer saying Elder Scrolls 6 will probably be pretty normcore. I think Todd in particular gravitates not towards the weird stuff. And I think it's that playing safe aspect that really could hurt the Elder Scrolls 6, but we'll see what happens. I think Starfield really disappointed me with its lack of creativity. The universe was just not that interesting. Maybe that changes with the Terran Armada DLC expansion, their second one, but Shattered Space, that was an opportunity to really transform Starfield. I mean, look, you have this mysterious serpent society, and they just totally butchered that entire idea. And the former lead artist at Bethesda, Nate Parkipala, again, he's just had a lot of criticism for Bethesda. He again parroted more of that same perspective that Bethesda's just, they're playing it too safe. By the time Bethesda was on Starfield, you'd basically get in trouble for breaking schedule. A lot of the great stuff within Skyrim came from having the freedom to do what you want. And when you have a massive company with hundreds upon hundreds of developers all working on a project, a lot of that freedom goes away. And again, we've seen how that has harmed a number of franchises, not necessarily even just with Bethesda, just this entire industry overall. But anyway, the pressure is on the Elder Scrolls 6. The decision to go all in on the Creation Engine is something that Todd Howard and his team made years ago. It's just one that continues to be questioned, and now former developers are questioning it as well. Bethesda has been embarrassed. Starfield was an embarrassment, and right now there's definitely lots of calls being made into whether or not this developer can keep up with these modern times, and many are calling into question whether or not this current Bethesda can deliver the universally acclaimed open world RPGs that they used to be known for. Anyway, what are your thoughts and expectations on the Elder Scrolls 6? This video largely we talked about the technical side, a lot of the criticism concerned with that, but there's also the writing and characters and all of that that's definitely another story to this piece, and a lot of the things that Bethesda has to get right with the Elder Scrolls 6. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.
The AAA video game bubble has burst. I don't think this is true entirely, but I know why they're saying it. Here we go. Let's watch it.
The video game industry is currently in the thralls of a paradox.
Yeah.
For players, it could be argued we're in one of the greatest times for gaming.
I agree.
There's incredible breadth of choice across consoles, handhelds, and PCs made ever more accessible through gaming subscription services like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. But from an industry perspective, things could not be more dire. More and more studios seem to be closing, original IPs are being scrapped mid-development.
Well, I mean, like, this is... the thing is that... I mean, bro, she was so... Why didn't they not... They really should have just made that go. Damn, that's what the fuck. And so anyway, I think that's because the studios were over hiring. They have a bunch of people in there. Like, this is a big problem that I think a lot of people in corporate have, is that they just bring in more and more people, just more and more people, and eventually you have like such a large component of the actual of the company that doesn't actually contribute to the product. Like, they're not doing anything for the product, they're not improving the product, they're not making it better, they're not even helping the product, they're just there.
IPs are being scrapped mid-development, and vast legions of game developers, programmers, artists, and animators have been cut loose. To put it simply...
I mean, look, can't we just talk about the fact, like, who the fuck wants to do this? What is this, like, in between, like, a Pride rally, Burning Man, and Mad Max? What the fuck is this? Like, what kind of stuff? It doesn't make any sense. It's weird. Yeah, who does this?
Animators have been cut loose. To put it simply, the AAA video game bubble has finally burst.
Yeah.
Across the past 2 years, over 23,000 jobs in the video game industry were lost, with a staggering 6,000 in January 2024 alone. Over 30 video game development studios have ceased operations, including Arcane Austin, Volition, and most recently, Firewalk Studio.
You want to know what they all have in common? Is that they're Western development studios. Capcom is hiring people, and From Software increased their wages. The problem is that AAA Western gaming studios are infested with like 3 or 4 different types of rot that they seemingly can't get rid of, and it's killing their games. The fact is that Monster Hunter is going to be a AAA game, and it's going to be massively fucking successful. Path of Exile 2 is a AA game that is better than basically any AAA game. Let's be real, like, it is Western American, especially American, and a lot of European game developers. They are the ones that have no fucking idea what they're doing. That's the real problem.
What's worse is this trend only shows signs of continuing rather than diminishing. So how did we get here? Well, some analysts have concluded these closures and redundancies are a necessary remedy to companies having overextended themselves in response to inflated demand in the market during the COVID-19 pandemic. While that's undeniably a factor, that's just one of many issues that have been gestating for years within the AAA project bubble. Just 5 years ago, AAA projects' average budget ranged from $50 to $150 million. Today, the minimum average is $200 million.
Jesus.
Call of Duty's new benchmark.
So it more than doubled or quadrupled in 5 years. Well, where's that money going?
Where's it $300 million, with Activision admitting in the Competition and Market Authority's report on AAA development.
And also, like, here's another thing. I'm gonna just say it. Like, you know who plays games like this? Guys play games like this. They do. Girls don't play games like this. Some do, sure. But this is mainly a guy game. And you need to stop putting girl boss characters in games that are made for men. Because there's a big difference. There are games that are made for men and games that are made for women. Every other form of media has this and acknowledges it, but somehow in video gaming, we have to pretend like it's not real. It is obviously fucking real. So they keep making content for, quote, everybody, and nobody wants it. Girl bros, yeah, it's ridiculous. Girl boss is fine if it's demonstrated. Well, yeah, but the Resident Evil lady, like that Hitsu's talking about, she was really hot. That's the main thing. And also, she was like the villain, and like it wasn't even you. Well, said Stellar Blade? Yeah, Stellar Blade character is really hot. Like, Stellar Blade is a game that's made to appeal to men. The people that made Stellar Blade made that game, and this might be a big surprise, but even after the ceasefire was started in Gaza, that doesn't matter because the people that are going, oh, here we go, Hamas holding public executions. Can you believe, wait a minute, guys, can you believe that the terrorists are killing people? I can't believe it.
Hostages have been released from Hamas custody and have been identified, but the bodies of 21 people, including 2 American citizens, are still in Hamas hands. And President Trump is demanding the terror group release them and permanently disarm. The president writing on Truth Social, all 20 hostages are back and feeling as good as can be expected. A big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done. The dead have not been returned as promised. Phase 2 begins right now. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus is a former IDF spokesperson and now a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, and he joins me now. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for being here. We understand that you're standing in front of Kibbutz Nir Oz, which is the site of such devastation and destruction at the hands of Hamas on October 7th. And because Hamas has not released all of the bodies yet, yesterday Israel reduced the amount of aid flowing into Gaza and decided not to reopen